Chapter 9. Lou. When Ginny's stallion returned at the end of the day carrying the 3 vans and their crews, all the children around the shop were wearing orange tops and the crowd watching boxes trundle around the packing machine had grown. "We can always fill the packs now rather than in the morning," Cal said toward Jeff's wife who had taken over controlling the shop. "We do 3 different types," she said. "Maybe we could try doing one now though. So we iron out any problems," Cal added. A few words to all, and the empty boxes on the packing machine were replaced with the ones filled with the produce she called out. "We need 300 of these packs," she said. The process seemed to work reasonably well, other than too many people wanting to adjust the speed control. The first 300 bags done, there was a rush to change the machine to the boxes needed for the B packs. 400 of these, Jeff's wife called out while some took the already packed produce into the 3 vans. Then it was the C packs, even though it was getting late now. The system they had worked out involved 3 grades of packs. A packs were aimed at an adult taste with often only one of each expensive fruits like orange nettle pears. B packs were for children filled with multiple pieces of small sweet fruit, and the C packs were bigger packs, focused on larger families with multiple pieces of special and low-priced fruit. "Sleep in later in the morning," Cal said loudly when the work was done. Family together in the Sea Stallion for the night. It was time to discuss the day. That was once the twins had said how good a job they had done at making the packing machine work so well. "If we have no work early tomorrow, it might be a good idea to run all these wives who haven't been checked through the medic," Cal said toward Mia. "They'll be all wanting to make sure they can have more babies," Mia said, smiling back. "I think that's a good idea." Cal was looking directly into Mia's eyes. "We might have to get extra staff to cover the times, but it won't be for a while." "Only a few weeks really," Mia said. "I'll remember that," Cal said. "Did anyone talk to Sue about different foods?" "She likes our monsters," Kira said. "Everyone likes our monsters," Kyra added. "We chose them well." "I was thinking of putting some out with the vans to sell there," Cal said. "I thought Agatha was working out prices." The 3 vans received a supply of fluffy monsters added to their load before they left in the morning, as well as a few of the tiny toys to hand out free to suitable customers. Then while the girls were recruiting women to be medic checked, Cal went to the liner control room to discuss serious business with Mr. Slee and his daughter. "We need some landing places near the city that we own. I was thinking of 3 spaced around. Close enough for the vans to easily drive in, and far enough to be affordable to buy." "Problem difficult you giving," Mr. Slee said. "Affordable is the problem," Agatha added quickly. "The longer we wait, and the more people see what we're doing, the more expensive it will become," Cal said. "Correct you being," Mr. Slee nodded. "If we start looking now, maybe when we do find some land, we'll have enough to pay for it," Cal said. "Never," Mr. Slee was shaking his head. "Loaning you doing?" "Dad's right. It will need a loan, but maybe not so bad." It was Cal's turn to shake his head, but really, he had known that. For the whole day, the Sea Stallion didn't leave the ground. Plenty of time for wives and children to be medic checked and Cal to wander around lost. 2 ships called in for supplies, and that offered a distraction, but one customer's comment planted a seed. He was asking for the closest food shop. Something they did themselves when they traveled to new places, and here they were, hundreds of miles from anything else, and while they had meals in the auto kitchen in the liner, there was nothing for customers. When that ship left, Cal sought out Orbis for his opinion. "A hot food shop here. Would make sense when we get more visitors. And maybe we won't get those visitors if we can't offer them ready-to-eat meals. I know our people will eat whatever isn't sold. We could make the auto kitchen work in the ship. Has to be real food. We sell real produce, so we should use our produce and sell real cooked food. That place in the bazaar that sells it does a good business. I'll eat it myself." Orbis stopped and stared out to space. "Need proper cooking and preparing things and then someone to do the cooking. It would make the shop more complete." More like a one-stop shop, and while they're eating, they'll see even more things to buy. Now that's the way to think, lad. Not a silly idea after all. Longer they stay, the more that come to see what's so interesting. Would need tables and chairs too. They'll be buying drinks as well. Could get those girls to make a movie about it for the big sign. We need to find out if any of the women know about cooking, Cal said. Strike while the thruster's hot, lad. Let's go to it now. They only found one person that knew anything about cooking, and that was Sue, their stowaway. We had no auto kitchens in our factory, she said. But I'm not the best cook. You willing to try cooking for us? Cal asked. Cooking for customers that come to the shop. Don't frighten her, lad, Orbis said when Sue hadn't answered. I'm not that good. Sue was looking at the floor. Are you willing to try? Cal asked gently. We'll get whatever you need, and you try in the liner kitchen for us. Use us as testers, Orbis added. I don't even know what to order. Maybe with a teacher I learn, but by myself. She was shaking her head. That's all right, Cal said softly. You know anyone who knows how to cook? Orbis asked. Lou. She's a great cook. She knows all the cooking ways and dishes. She'd know what you wanted and cook for you. And she's on Rigel 12, Cal said, Sue nodding. Would she want to come and work here? Orbis asked. Sue nodded. Problem solved, he said toward Cal. How do we get her? I assume we can't just message her on the terminal and arrange a meeting. There is only one way, Sue said, her voice sounding more excited now. You need to send me where I escaped, and I need to go and get her to come back with me. Dangerous, Cal said. You love danger, Orbis turned to Cal. And your women love it even more. I'll go and tell them. Cal shook his head. He knew once the girls heard about a rescue job, there would be no stopping their nagging. But that will mean you having to go back inside where you were. You sure you can get out again? There's little security because there is nowhere to escape to. Let's find your women, lad, and we'll get this project on the move. An hour with women discussing rescue missions and twins deciding what pirate top they should wear for the trip, and most things seemed decided. They would drop Sue on the bare ground where she had been picked up, and while she walked to the compound where she had lived, Cal and the women would go to the warehouse on Rigel 12 and do their ordering. Next they would wait until Sue messaged them to come and pick her up. It seemed so easy. What if you get caught and held? Cal asked. We'd come and free her, Kira said. We'd need blasters, Kyra added excitedly. I'll have to take that risk, Sue said carefully. I'm sure it won't happen. How long will it take? Mia asked. Throughout the discussion she had sounded keen to proceed. 2 hours in and then out, Sue said. Then until the shift change. Could be up to 10 hours. So up to 14 hours, maybe, Mia said. We can leave now. The twins cheered and Orbis faced Cal. Your fearless crew are keen. Another day and we will be eating fresh meals. Sue settled in the Sea Stallion and Mia loaded the coordinates of the place Sue had left from, and they were set. 4 hours in ether space and they were orbiting Rigel 12, their destination off to the side of the main central orbit and currently in darkness. Pirates like to hide their loot in the dark, Kyra said brightly. But does Sue really want to walk in the dark? Cal asked, looking over at the girl. Be the best, Sue said. Going down, Mia called. When I'm close to the ground, get ready to run out quickly. I'll try to make it like I didn't stop. Flying down low, Cal saw apartment blocks and factories all with illuminated walking paths between them. Then they were flying over blackness and the ship was landing, Sue, guided by 2 girls, scampering toward the main hatch. Open now, Mia called, even though they were still moving. The hatch opened and closed almost as quickly and the Sea Stallion was climbing as though it had just suffered a brief power failure. Warehouse now, Cal said. We've got to get our stickers, Kyra said keenly. Cal set off, taking one of the 2 empty pods he'd taken with them as they all walked toward the entrance of the huge Rigel 12 warehouse. "We'll take the pod into the freight office," Kira said, taking control of the pod from Cal. "We'll need your pass," Kira said, Cal handing over his yellow pass and the twins racing ahead to be first through the doorway. "I'm waiting how long it will be before they want to look at more monsters," Mia said. "They'll hold on to that pass so they won't need to ask. Anyhow, they'll be keen to see these stickers. You should have a horse picture rather than theirs. I'm not sure now. All our signs have 2 girls munching fruit. Maybe keep the horse for the freight side of the business." Ahead, the twins had the pod in the freight handling door and Cal saw his yellow pass being held up, then the girls were running back to report. "That was easy," Kira said breathless. "We'll have to be quick in case Sue needs us back," Kira added, holding the pass back for Cal to grab, the girls now guiding toward the customer entrance of the warehouse. Inside, it was a direct line toward the material handling section where they'd bought the packing machine before. Not even a pause for monster shopping. Cal heard the twins annoying the salesman for their stickers, and appeared disappointed when told they were in the warehouse already. "We require some more bags as well," Cal said to the salesman. "That machine is working well. We'll be back for another once we get more credits." "Sir, why don't you consider complete automation for your business? Add the picking arms needed to select and pack without staff. Something to aim toward. For now, we're wanting to look for prices on equipment for a small food shop." Cal had the feeling his business was being focused toward a related business when after a terminal call he was offered that someone would come to guide them to the best and greatest supplier in the whole warehouse. "They're treating us like we're important people," Kira said as she heard. "But us junior business managers are important people," Kira insisted. At least Mia's glance to him showed she knew the truth. The wait for their guide was filled with the salesman offering ideas to consider in the future, with pamphlets of anything that slightly raised interest being thrust into Cal's hands. They were finally rescued by a youngish woman, about the same age and look as Sue, who after a couple of quiet words to the salesman, pointed them to follow her. Again, it was twins leading with Cal taking the rear, and this was proving to be a long walk through aisles covered with bright metal machinery of all descriptions. When they stopped, it was before a display of 3 different kitchens. "We offer a complete package," the woman said when the others were around her. "You choose the parts you want, and we help with the parts needed to match and connect the items into a strong and long-lasting kitchen that will give you years of service. What size did you plan on?" Cal was beginning to open his mouth when Mia said, "As part of our produce shop. Something to add custom. And particular style of food." "Tasty," Kira called out. "This one," the woman pointed to the one to the left. "Small enough to fit into an existing business, yet big enough to supply a good run of customers." She was moving closer, a hand out toward the components. "Generous cleaning and washing basin. Then prep area leading to the hot plates with an oven under. Then a handling bench serving the customer area with both hot and cold displays to one side with a serving bench and then a beverage dispenser and a sweets display to finish. A complete business in a compact space." "How much?" Cal said, the others too busy studying to speak. "$57, and that includes the fan kit and ducting." "What sort of beverages would they be?" Mia asked. "Here we supply teas. Different plant leaves dried, and then those leaves seeped in hot water to infuse the tastes and properties through the whole drink. Very popular with people that know." "What sweets?" Kira said. "Usually small sweet fancy cakes to be supplied with the hot drinks." "So you sell 2 items," Mia said, the woman nodding. "What other equipment do we need?" Cal asked. "Nothing special, other than your usual cooking and cutting items, and then your dishes and glasses." "How long to get a package?" "Immediate. Always in stock. I'll prepare pamphlets of the components for you now." The woman slipped away while the others looked more closely at the equipment, but the more Cal looked, the more sure he was that they were being overcharged. When he thought how much equipment they got in the packing machine compared to this kitchen, the kitchen looked more like 5,000 total. They didn't need to make a decision today, although he was sure if they did, the girls would have this on the ship within an hour. "Thanks for your trouble," Cal said when the woman returned with the pamphlets. "We'll be back in a couple of weeks to discuss further. For now just some time left to get some food items." "She was overcharging us," Cal whispered to Mia as they walked away, then louder to all he said, toward the food area. "Let's try to find some of these teas to try." "It didn't seem that pricey," Mia said while the girls were searching for teas. "Not for us, but for here, it was expensive. We'll look harder next time, and maybe look to buy the pieces ourselves." Foodstuffs was a huge section, and while often only one item was on display, the order amounts were always large, and that had Cal thinking how big this section in the main warehouse really was. As you walked, the scents mingled, making it difficult to know what particular item any scent came from. So much was completely foreign to him, and while they were looking for dried leaves, he didn't have any real idea of what they would look like if he did see them. Even the twins gave up trying to look and asked a trader. Cal didn't hear the reply, but he noticed the girls' focused path as proof they'd found good information. "Teas of the Galaxy." The sign was obvious when you saw it, but there were no leaves to be seen, only colorful rectangular packages, some of which had small images of bushes on them, but the writing was mainly in foreign languages. When a salesman deemed to help them, he completely ignored the women and only grunted yes to Cal. "We're new to teas and want to find out what we need." "Tea and water." "But what ones?" "Any one." "How much?" "Different." "Popular one?" Cal asked. "Depends you like." "The one you sell the most of." "Gold 7.13 per bundle." "Sold," Cal said holding out his pass card. The deal done with no more talking. "Now we know what it looks like, let's see if we can see it in other traders' stalls," he said as they walked away. With their eyes opened, Cal saw tea in just about every other trader. Some with only one type, and other places with quite a selection, as well as the containers to drink it. Ahead, the twins had stopped at one trader and were pointing to packs of tea. When Cal was close, the trader was happily explaining all about tea and how it was made. When they left, Cal had ordered 6 different types, a large amount of glasses and some of the special spoons that held the tea leaves captive while they were soaking in hot water. The women had also been talked into a few large pots for steeping the tea in bulk for a shop. At least this stall had been friendly and helpful. "Some new clothes for Sue and let's get back to the ship," Cal said. "We really need some clothes racks," Kyra said. "To properly display the clothes in the shop," Kira added. "What's wrong with those shelves I got last time?" Cal asked. "The girls are right," Mia said, the twins nodding. "You want this shop to work, don't you?" "We know the way," Kira said, and he was left to follow behind as usual. While he only wanted 1 rack, he had to take 5, and then it was the hangers needed. 2 types, a carton of each. Fortunately the cost was minimal, but now with 5 racks to fill, the women went to town on ordering. "Sue would like this one." "That color suits Sue well." "Some of the children need new underwear too." "Those pants would fit Sue." "We should get both colors and choose later." So much for this being a produce business. That amount of shopping called for snacks. "We should have a meal here while they pack our goods," Kira said once the shopping rush was over. "We'll go to that place we went to last time," Kyra added. Cal was content to follow, and there, his focus was more on the exact equipment the shop was using rather than the meals. He was learning a lot, when he noticed Mia had been doing the same, the girls still busy talking about the clothing purchases. "They've got basically the same shop equipment as we were looking at before," she said. "When we go back we'll look at different suppliers, and I'm sure we'll get the lot here for less than 10,000. A lot of ingredients needed still. If we get the cooks to choose say 5 or 6 meals and we get the ingredients for those first." "We like this one with the long worm things in the blood sauce," Kyra said. It's not blood, Mia said. But it looks like it is. Speaking of blood, Cal said. Should we check our new staff for implants and maybe remove them before we leave here? We haven't before. We haven't kidnapped anyone before either. We're freeing her. Mia's voice trailed down. I do see. Depends on whose point of view you take. She stayed thinking. We should. You're right. I was thinking of coming back to the parking area here and doing it there. Dump the implants somewhere in this planet. Keep ourselves clear of trouble. That's a great pirate idea, Kira said. We agree, Kira added. And I have to do the cutting, Mia muttered. But you had practice with Orbis, Cal said. And he survived. Outside the display area and in the warehouse itself, the twins grabbed the yellow pass and raced to retrieve the pod from the dispatch area, hardly giving the woman behind the counter time to issue the receipt before they had the pod in their hands. Then back in the Sea Stallion, they had the pod opened and were inspecting their purchases while Cal sent a message to Agatha saying they were still waiting and didn't know exactly when they would return. Then the only thing left to do was to lie down and rest. Even Mia copied him while the girls continued playing with the new clothes. When his terminal beeped with a message, it took him a time to register what it was, and even longer to see what the message said. The others were all peering into his arm as he tried to see himself. Maybe 2 more hours to get her. Sue. He pressed an acknowledgement, then dropped back to try to resume the dream, but the others had different ideas. It will be at least 4 hours before we can go to pick them up, he said. We all need to be rested for that trip. Well, he did, anyhow. Success. Pick-up place in 1 hour. That second message was certainly welcome, but there was still time to kill. The hop to the pick-up place would only take 15 minutes maximum. That didn't stop the crew setting the ship ready for the trip, path set and everything ready to fly. From the maps, the pick-up place was in daylight now and it would still be light when they were due to arrive. In one way, Cal would have preferred the darkness, but that would have added a few hours more delay, and this whole escapade had gone on too long now. If I went into orbit, we'd use the time that way, then I could swoop down without flying low over other people, Mia said. Cal nodded, and the ship was warming up ready to fly. Blast off, he said, as the thrusters increased their hum. Check the extended scanner for any vessels near our destination. Cloaked Imperial ship in high stationary orbit over our destination, Kira reported. Destination itself clear. I think you were right about the implants, Mia said as they coasted in a slow planetary orbit. And by parking again at the warehouse it will seem like we just took someone to get something, Cal said. 10 minutes to pick up. Mia said. Now or another orbit. Cal messaged 10 minutes or 30 minutes. The reply came back now. Head for the ground. We'll open the hatch, Kira said. Keep monitoring the site for other ships, Cal said. All clear, Kira called out. In the daylight they could see the tops of buildings as they glided slowly down. Ahead was a cleared area with trees of some sort scattered around the edge of the building area. It's much more open than I imagined, Cal said. Someone to the hatch. Open when Mia says. Kira ran off. 2 people on the far left, Mia said, turning the ship directly toward them. Cal saw the figures stop moving as they noticed the ship, and Mia had the vessel lower and lower, maneuvering to keep the thruster exhaust away. Open hatch, she called out. Cal couldn't see anything out the front viewport now, but he heard Kira calling out for them to go toward her. Next the slight jolt as the ship settled a little into the ground, then more sounds in the direction of the hatch, then hatch closing, coming from Kira and the ship lifting up at a fast rate. Now in the control room, the passengers were pointed at the bed while Kira went back to monitoring her shield's console and Cal glanced to their new recruit. Having the same black hair and wearing the same grey uniform as Sue, but he was sure she was much older. We're stopping in a few minutes and we can all talk then, he said to the pair. It will be a smooth trip. Sue nodded. She had a hand around the other's waist. We can get the same landing pad, Mia said as the warehouse came into view in the main viewport. Imperial ship still in the same place, Kira said. Our pirate maneuvers worked well. So far, Cal muttered. On the ground and the ship thrusters off, it was report time, and with the others standing around the bed, Sue seemed ready. This is my mother, Lou. She's the best cook I know, and she would love to start a new life. Cal stayed silent while the women fired question after question, and he slowly pieced the story together. Lou had been born on Rigel 12, and had lived there, not as a prisoner, but as part of a factory staff. Accommodation was in a dormitory, and all food provided in factory kitchens. The only change when Sue was born was she was allocated a bunk underneath her mother. How they lived was how most of the population of that planet lived. The ships that Cal had thought were dropping slaves to Rigel 12 were in fact taking allocated staff to be hired out to other businesses on other planets. They were slaves in a sense. Lou had been trained to be a cook, and she worked from about 10 years old in the kitchens, where Sue, her daughter, had been trained as a packer. She had worked from 6, packing various shoes into boxes and then into large cartons, 12 hours a day. Lou, I need you to tell me now if you want us to take you away from here, but before you say, I can't offer a paradise. As Sue will tell you, you'll only have an old liner to live in, and again, you may be doing the cooking. The women were looking at him intently. I can say that you and your daughter can always be together if you choose, and we will do the best we can to see you are well cared for. Also, we will never hold you. If you want to leave, you can do so anytime. It was Sue that answered. The way I have lived with you is so much better, there is no real choice to make. I'm never going back, and once Mom sees, she will be the same. Before you leave here, I'll want Mia to check you in our medic to see if you have any implants, and if so, she will remove them and leave them here so no one can trace you. The only way I can remove them will hurt a bit for a time until the automedic heals the wound, Mia said. Also, we've got some new clothes for you to try, the girls will show you in a minute. While Mia does this work, one of the twins and me will go back to the warehouse to buy some food items to make a couple of tasty meals for everyone back home to try. The twins were looking at each other. One to be assistant nurse and one to be junior business partner. You choose. That was going to be a difficult choice. Now can we all discuss what food and sauces and utensils we need to buy? The sooner we start, the sooner we can get away from here. That began a lot of discussion, but most of it was about who was the best assistant nurse. The final decision was that neither girl was the best nurse, and both thought themselves the best at being junior business partners. It was Mia who solved the problem. I'll do all the medic, and both girls can go shopping. They still needed the shopping list, and that took another half hour, and all that was only for 2 meals. At least the women would have privacy in the medic. One empty pod pushed toward the freight entrance like before, while Cal made for the main entrance, waiting for the twins to catch up with him. Inside, they knew the food area, enough to know it was a long walk. Knowing the name of the items they wanted was not quite the same as knowing what they looked like. Cal settled on returning to the helpful people who sold some tea and asked them. Within moments the problem was taken from him, the trader supplying some items and calling other friends to supply the balance. All Cal had to do was approve the purchase, and with the prices he was offered that was very easy to do. Anything else you think we should take like this? Of course there was a planet full of things, but the trader only suggested 3 more items as important and another 6 as useful. Cal nodded and the bill increased, but only by 10 credits. Can we see if we can get meals to take away on the way out? Cal asked. It's still a long trip. That proved an easy thing to arrange, and with 6 hot meal packs in their hands they left the main entrance. The girls decided it would be best if they took the meals back to the ship while Cal waited for the pod. We'll save one for you, Kira said as the pair almost ran off toward the Sea Stallion. By the time he'd collected the pod and got it secured into the freight hold, the meals had been eaten and Sue and Lou were parading in new smart clothes. The implants came out easy, Mia said. Hardly hurt, Sue said, but her mother's face showed different. What do we do with them? Mia picked up a used food container and held it toward Cal. "I'll take them to the rubbish here," he said. "We can look at the new purchases while you do that," Kira said. Cal shook his head as he peered at the tiny blood-covered grains in the corner of the empty food container. Then he decided it best to empty his own container so he could take all the empties with him. The women would be looking at stock forever. Even though it was the middle of the night when they landed back at their base, the twins wanted to get their purchases in the shop right then. Sue had led her mother toward the liner while all Cal wanted to do was sleep. It had been a long and eventful trip and he knew the morning would bring plenty of new problems. The Sea Stallion Book 2. The Base at Grand Bazaar. A Space Adventure. By Mystic Alchemist. Copyright 2024 Mystic Alchemist. All rights reserved. Written in Australian English. This book is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places and incidents are either a product of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual people living or dead, events or locales is purely coincidental. Cover and text written and assembled by hand without use of artificial intelligence.